All right, welcome to the Art of Productivity Building .NET Applications with Visual Studio for Mac. I'm Syed Abraham Hashimi, a program manager on the Visual Studio for Mac team. We'll start with a quick overview of the different types of apps that you can create using Visual Studio for Mac. All right. So we have three main workloads that we support. One is mobile development with Xamarin. And then the next one is web and cloud development with .NET Core and ASP.NET Core. We also have Azure Functions there. We also have gaming and real-time 3D development with Unity. And for this talk, we're going to be focusing on .NET Core. So let me just briefly cover the features for gaming as well as mobile. And then we're going to spend most of our time in .NET Core itself. Switch over to my demo machine here. All right, so here you can see I've got Unity 2018 loaded up. This is what you'll use if you're a Unity developer. And when running Unity on Mac, Visual Studio for Mac is the default editor for Unity files. If I was to go to Assets, Open C# Project, what you would see is this would actually launch an instance of Visual Studio for Mac, and then a project would be populated with all your Unity files. We're not going to go in there for this particular demo because we only have about 20 minutes here, but if we have time at the end, I can always circle back to this particular demo. Let me go ahead and quit Unity here. We're going to go ahead and explore the mobile applications by taking a look at what we have in the new project dialog here. So let me go under multi-platform. So here we can see that you can create mobile applications either using Xamarin Forms, which enables you to create a single app that is used across different platforms, for example, iOS and Android. And with Forms, you can share the logic and the UI of your application across those different platforms. And after that, or in addition to that, we also have native iOS and native Android UI. So if you pick that particular flavor, you would actually share your common code and services, but you would implement your UI in a native specific manner for that particular framework there. All right, let's go ahead and dive into to .NET Core here. We'll also explore .NET Core using the new project dialog, and then I'll jump into some demos after that. So let's go take a look at the different project types that are available for .NET Core. So in the app node here, we can see that obviously you can create console applications for .NET Core. And this includes if you want to create any .NET Core global tools. We also have support for a variety of different web templates, the same templates that are available in Visual Studio for PC as well. We use the exact same templates and template engine here that Visual Studio does. You could also see here that we've recently added the SPA templates. So that's where you can create a web front end with ASP.NET Core and Angular or React. So we've got support for those as well. For library projects, you can create either a .NET standard class library or a vanilla class library project. For unit tests, we have a variety of different unit test frameworks that we support out of the box. So those would be MS Test, NUnit, and XUnit. I'm using XUnit myself, but you can pick either, whatever your preference is there. All right, let's take a quick look. We also have support for Azure Functions. The way that you get into that is going under the cloud node, and then you'll start creating your Azure function from here. All right, I have an existing solution that I've developed previously. It's an ASP.NET Core 3 solution, so we'll go ahead and check that one out. This solution here consists of 4 different projects. First, we have an API project that contains most of the logic and the information that's actually shown on the web page itself. We've got a shared class library project here. This is a .NET standard library. I've got a web front end for this one, and the web front end consumes the API project. And what we want to do here is we want to actually run this application. So I want to run the web application, the web front end. And let me show you something which we've recently added in here. So we've got a browser selector. So whatever browsers you have installed in your OS, you can configure the browser per project. I'll go ahead and leave the default with Chrome here. And since the architecture of this application is that I have a web front end that consumes a API backend, I need to make sure that both of these projects will go ahead and start when I either run or debug this application. The way that I'm going to do that is basically the same exact way that we would do it in Visual Studio on PC. You right-click your solution, you pick Set Startup Projects. It's going to prompt you to create what's called a solution run configuration. This is something that's unique to Visual Studio for Mac. And then here you can check the projects that you want to run. So I'll go ahead and check Templates API and Templates Web. All right, let's go ahead and click that. And I don't know if you noticed, but this drop-down changed from the project that I had selected to now multiple projects. So now I know that when I run or debug this, I'll see multiple projects to start. I can click the play button here to go ahead and start a debugging session. All right, we can see that we'll start this one more time. I have like a kind of a funny build here, so I think that's probably due to that. Hopefully you guys won't be running into this with the actual preview. So we can see that now it started up my API application here, and then it also started up my web application here. All right, let's take a look at this. Let me zoom in on this. I'm noticing a couple issues here with this particular website. So I got some gibberish here. Let me go ahead and copy that. And also, if you notice, we're displaying some empty lines here. So these are some bugs that we're going to want to go ahead and fix these bugs. Let me go back to the IDE. All right, let's stop debugging. Over here in the right-hand corner, we have what's called Navigate to. The shortcut to get into this is Command dot. So I'll go ahead and hit that Command dot. And there's a few different types of things that you can do here. You can run commands here. You can search for text that's in your solution. You can also do stuff with NuGet packages. Just going to paste in that gibberish that we had, and then I'll go ahead and select Search and Solution. All right, we can see I've got one hit here. Let's go to it. All right, so here's that code. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. Let me go ahead and minimize this pad here. And this is a brand new experience for editing Razor files and Visual Studio for Mac. In 8.3, we replaced the web editors. So that would be the HTML, Razor, JavaScript, CSS, JSON, etc., with the editors that are actually in Visual Studio for PC. So if you've edited web files in Visual Studio for PC, you basically feel like home here. Let's take a quick look at some of the IntelliSense that you might get out of this. All right, so you can see here that I'm getting all the IntelliSense that I would expect for C#, and we also have IntelliSense for JavaScript that's embedded within Razor pages or embedded within HTML files. All right, so that was that. So now let me remind you about the other bug where we have a couple blank lines here, and I shouldn't have stopped debugging. So I'll use the shortcut Command Return to start debugging again. Now we want to take a look to see if we can find out why are we displaying some empty lines here. Okay. So I've actually seen this problem in the past when I was developing this. So let me go to it. All right. So I believe the issue is somewhere around here, basically inside this create from file or create from text. So what I did was I went ahead and set a breakpoint here. I'm going to refresh the browser, wait for that breakpoint to get hit. All right, there we go. Okay, great. So what I do is, so this create from file, what this will do is it actually is going to call create from text and then return the results. So what I'll do is I'm going to right click create from text here. And then I'm going to go to run to cursor. Run to cursor, if you've used it on Visual Studio, it's the same exact feature. What it does is, let's say if you're in your debugger and you're stopped on a breakpoint, you can run to cursor, and that says, resume my application until it hits this particular line, and then I want the debugger to stop there. So that's what I'll do. And this is not to be confused with set next statement. Set next statement, what that does, it just literally moves the line of code from wherever the breakpoint is to that line. Run to cursor actually continues the execution. All right, so now we can see that I've hit my breakpoint. What I want to do, I want to inspect the results value here. There's a couple ways I can do that. You can do that either on hover, or you can use one of the pads. One of the pads that we have here is the locals pad, and it's very similar to what you see in Visual Studio for PC. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and drill into the results and try to see for the list of templates, why are there empty values here? All right, let me drill into templates, drill into 0. Then if we take a look here, basically we've got a bunch of nulls here. So this is essentially what's causing the problem inside of our web app. This is not what we want to go ahead and get fixed. We got to minimize that. I'm going to stop debugging, close this pad. All right, I happen to have a snippet ready here, so demo exclude. I created this snippet by going to Visual Studio, Preferences, and then Code Snippets. We actually have a UI to assist you with creating those. Let's go ahead and start debugging again. So I use the shortcut, which is Command-Enter one more time. All right, now hopefully what we'll see is that bug has now been resolved. Okay, I got my breakpoint here. Let me turn that breakpoint off and then continue. All right, so that's really great. So now we were able to quickly find and fix 2 bugs using Visual Studio for Mac. All right, so now let's take a look at some other stuff. All right, so let's go back to Visual Studio for Mac here. I'm going to stop debugging. When you're developing .NET Core, actually I should say when you're developing ASP.NET Core applications, there's a special file that's called launchsettings.json. It's located under the properties node. So I went ahead and opened that file here. Inside this file, you can create different profiles, and it will basically determine what happens when your application is launched, either when you run or debug your application. So here we can see that we can do a number of things here. We can set environment variables. We can also set the URLs that this application will be listening on. And you can either edit this file directly with the JSON editor that we have, or you can edit it with support from our UI. So you can right-click on your project and say Options, go down into our Run configurations, and then here we can see I have some env vars section here. I'll go ahead and save this. Okay, now we can see that that new environment variable that I defined has now been specified in launchsettings.json. If I was to rerun that application and inspect the environment, I would see that that value and that variable and that value has been associated correctly. Let's go ahead and remove that one. All right, so we also have full support for C# 8 and .NET Core and Visual Studio for Mac. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at that. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go to another class that I have here, Template Searcher. Okay, let's go up to line 46. So here we can see that on line 46, we're taking advantage of the new null coalescing assignment operator here. So if the search term was null, it will go ahead and be initialized to string.empty. So it kind of saves me about 2 or 3 lines of code doing that with an if statement, so that's really good. Let me go to another file here. So it's 10.web-index.c. All right. Okay. Just 1 second here. Okay, what am I? Just 1 second. Okay, okay. All right. Let me go back into Search Controller here, actually. All right. Okay. So not only do we support whatever C#8 code that you've authored, the IDE will actually try and assist you to move from the older syntax to the newer simplified syntax. So you can see now I've got my cursor inside this get method here, and there's a little wrench here that says use expression body for method. So what I can do is I can go ahead and click that, and it's converted my method into a single line expression body. So this is really cool because it makes your code kind of simpler and cleaner, and also obviously easier to maintain going forward. So yeah, not only do we support your building, but we also help you to move into it. All right. So I mentioned earlier that we brought over the web editors from Visual Studio for Windows into Visual Studio for Mac. And in a previous release, I think it was 8.2, we brought over the main C# editor. So that you should get the same experience editing C# files and VS for Mac as what you do on Windows. And one of the cool little features that we have here, I want to point out to you guys. In the gutter here, we can see I have some icons here. So I got this diamond, and then there's a couple points here. These points indicate areas where a fix-up is available for you to use, or like a notification that you might want to take a look at something. So I went ahead and clicked on that green line, and we can see now we have a quick fix here. So if I were to zoom in on this, we can see that it's suggesting for me to use a discard for this particular value. What that means is the variable is not actually used inside the program. I can verify that with find all references. So if I were to do find references, we can see the only reference is on that same line. And then I got that same exact message here. So I could comment these out, do a build with Command B, and now we should have a successful build coming out of this as well. All right. All right, build successful. So we also try to help you pinpoint areas of the code that can be improved. And this little diamond here is to just navigate these little lines here. So if you had 5 or 6 lines here, you click the diamond, it goes down to the next one. That's the idea from there. All right, let me show you some new features which we've recently added here. You can right-click on your solution, and you can manage your NuGet packages on a solution-wide basis. So I right-click on the solution, pick Manage NuGet Packages. Oh, man. Oh, OK, I'm not connected to the internet. But anyways, all right. What I wanted to show you here was on the Updates page, it would show you it would look throughout your whole entire solution and find NuGet packages that could be updated. I was going to show you the Newtonsoft.json. Had an update for 2 projects here, but I'm not connected to the internet, so that's not going to work now. We only got 1 minute left. All right, so, OK. All right, let me show you. So here I mentioned that I have a shared class library project. It's a .NET Standard class library project. One of the features which we've recently added is the ability to pack your class library project. So I'll go ahead and pack that, and that'll go ahead and complete. And then the NuGet package will be in my output folder, and I can upload that directly to NuGet.org or any other NuGet repository that I had. Yeah, and I think we're pretty much out of time here. I was going to show you guys some additional kind of debugging capabilities, but we've run out of time, unfortunately. I will be available, now for any kind of follow-up questions that you might have. Thank you very much for joining. And let me switch over to the resources slide real quick. A couple FW links here for resources if you're looking to learn some stuff about Visual Studio for Mac. Yeah. Thanks a lot for joining. And please follow us on Twitter. We have a new account, Visual Studio Mac, on Twitter. Thank you.